Alright, please just do ignore the tinsel, it's not important, I just like Christmas. Now, introductions. Hoodie Allen is a Long Island rapper, singer, and songwriter who, over the last decade or so, has largely made his name releasing what I would describe, generally, as light-hearted, frivolous pop rap music. Sure, occasionally, there have been, a couple of tracks here and there that have popped up that have been a little more sentimental, a little more heartfelt, a little more topical. I've really enjoyed some of those tracks. But generally, Hoodie has made his name making stuff that generally has quite a humorous tone to it and, making a career off his sense of kind of fun and vitality. And of course, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I've consistently listened to Hoodie over the years. I've found at least something to enjoy on pretty much every project that he's put out. There is definitely a lot of fun to be had with his kind of frivolous, light-hearted brand of rap music. But more recently, maybe over the last few years or so, I simply started to feel that I'd heard maybe enough inconsistent, unsatisfying, unambitious projects from Hoodie. His last record, Whatever USA, in 2019, was definitely for me his most forgettable yet. A perfectly listenable set of tracks, but one that just seemed to disappear from my brain the moment it was over. And then in May of last year, Hoodie released a new single that pointed towards something completely different for him, and I suddenly found myself excited for the possibility of a Hoodie record that was much more focused and conceptual, much more influenced by pop punk as a genre, and with a kind of bitter and fractious breakup storyline running through the centre of the whole thing. And now we have that record, Bub, which seemingly stands for Burn Your Bridges, which just feels, a little uninspired to me, so I'm glad it's just Bub. And I'm really happy to say that it is mostly what I had been hoping for the last 10 months. Bub is an admittedly short-lived but really emotionally charged breakup album which opens with that lead single that we talked about, Wouldn't That Be Nice? I did already talk about this one extensively and I don't want to rehash too much of that little track review here, but at the time I definitely did think, I might be kidding myself. The song had just completely surpassed all of my expectations. Would this huge melodramatic song about post-breakup angst from Hoodie Allen of all people really hold up for me? Well, we're 10 months on now, and this still stands as one of my favourite tracks of the past year. So I guess I can say yes to that question. And then to bring the song into the context of this full record, it's just such an excellent choice for an opening track. I mean, right from the opening melody, you just know this is going to be a sad one. It really just sets the tone for this record so perfectly with all of the bitterness and the resentment that is captured here, as well as some sense of kind of pettiness and immaturity that is on display as well, particularly just in the sarcasm of the title of the song. As the record moves on from its opening track, I would definitely say that we start to hear the pop-punk influence on this album a little more overtly, with a sequence of 4 or 5 songs that really prominently feature the kind of polished yet distorted guitars of the genre. We are treated to our first dose of that on track 2, Sabotage, which actually begins with the kind of delicate plucking sound of an acoustic guitar alongside some really nice atmospheric synth pad backing, but then the song just seamlessly transitions into a full-blown pop-punk hook. It definitely has the kind of really catchy melody that you would want to hear on something like this, which is only heightened by Hoodie's really surprising ability to reach for some really nice, impressive falsetto vocals, which honestly hit like a ton of bricks. And then the following track, Call Me Never, is definitely the one where it feels like Hoodie is most wearing his influences on his sleeve, because this is just a Blink-182 song, but a good one. On the chorus, it even feels like Hoodie is kind of, going out of his way to lean into the kind of snotty, nasal vocal delivery, which is so tied up with the sound of Blink to me, but it honestly works really well alongside the surly lyrics, which see Hoodie kind of vacillating between never wanting to see his ex again and wanting to do, whatever he can to have her back in his life. This kind of back and forth indicates, more of a long, drawn-out, messy decoupling rather than just a straightforward, simple, clean breakup. And I appreciate the way that Hoodie chronicles this whole process, fleshing it out with the kind of confessional details that make all of the emotional turmoil feel more personal and more real rather than just sort of generically relatable. I think the song Hey Ben is a good example of this, as Hoodie turns his aim away from his ex for a moment and addresses this titular Ben character directly. This is presumably, some other guy that Hoodie's ex is, seeing or involved with at this time in the album. And the song ends up being this really odd cocktail of uncomfortable rivalry, awkward apology, and also genuine sympathy for this other guy, because in Hoodie's view, they're both in the same boat. They're both being wronged by this woman. And it's so important, it's crucial that we respect the bro-on-bro solidarity that Hoodie shows here. What a hero to us all. Happy Again is another one where I really appreciate the kind of storytelling and the intimate details that are all included. It really captures well this kind of idea of someone, just overthinking every little detail after a relationship and, obsessively checking social media to analyse all of their ex's posts as they, move on. Not something that I relate to at all, but I could see how someone might. And there are lots of other details and lines that I really like all over this album, but I'm not going to stand around reciting them, so a few are on the screen now, courtesy of Genius.com. There certainly is a pettiness and maybe even a bit of a toxicity to the drama on this record, but it also feels like Hoodie is self-aware enough, he recognises the unhealthy behaviours that he exhibits here, and it does definitely help to soften the blow a little bit when you find yourself embarrassed because you relate to something on this album a little too hard. We can all go overboard or get, unreasonably angry for all the wrong reasons, and that is all on display on this album. And to go back to Happy Again, it just helps that the songs here are so great. This one gives us more wailing guitars, for some reason flourishes of pizzicato strings back Hoodie's vocals on the verses, but it works really well, and those kind of howling, reverb-slathered backing vocals that pop in towards the climax of the track just take the song up to this whole next level of emotional catharsis. As the record begins to wind down, we get Eraserface, which may sound like a D-list Batman villain, but is, in fact, a song. Unexpected. This one definitely feels like it's filling the role of kind of sad, slow, emotional closer with its really tired guitar arpeggios and the sleepy vocal melodies on the hook, as Hoodie wishes that he could fall into some kind of sci-fi movie and have all of the memories of his ex removed from his brain. I think the song is okay, but it also feels like it kind of clashes a little with the actual closer on this record, Better Me, which is definitely a bit more of an optimistic take on the emotional final song trope, as Hoodie kind of gets over all of the bitter, pointless frustration that has characterised him so far, and decides to kind of take all the mistakes, all the failures from this past relationship, and learn from them moving forward. I guess maybe these two don't necessarily clash, people contain multitudes and it's fine to feel different ways about a relationship at different times, presumably in this order. Maybe I don't love the kind of grey, drab presentation of one of these, and I really love the dynamic, vivacious, lively attitude of the other. I mean, Better Me definitely begins as a kind of pleasant but bland guitar-backed trip down memory lane, but the whole thing snowballs as each new element is added, and by the time the drums start to kick in on the second verse, I'm just all in. Intensify those vocal effects, add some sweet bass lines, bring in the layers of backing vocals, then take some away again at the end, finish. It's a gorgeous example of adding and taking away layers to create something really emotionally resonant. The lyrics are once again relatable, but also personal, and unlike Eraserface, it doesn't kind of drag and overstay its welcome. 1 minute 55, the shortest song here, but sometimes that's all you need. It ends this album on a real high point. The record as a whole follows this example. It's only 8 songs long, only 23 minutes, and it's a little easy to kind of feel shortchanged. I know I certainly did when the album came out, and I thought, I've been waiting for this for 10 months, and it's only, just over 20 minutes. But at the same time, Hoodie manages to convey the narrative that he seems to want to convey. He packs a lot of sonic diversity and variation into the 8 tracks here, and there's definitely a lot to dig into. I mean, I've barely even talked about the vocals here yet, which I am all around just really impressed by. You know, looking back, Hoodie's singing definitely has improved on each consecutive project, but here he relies on it to deliver pretty much everything. We have some really tender, intimate vocal moments on songs like Sabotage and Better Me, and then we have, you know, the kind of fire in the belly, the frustrated shouting and anger on songs like Alibi. And I also really enjoy how, you know, heavily altered by effects the vocals are a lot of the time. The record uses a lot of kind of over vocal doubling to emphasize certain lines and give a little more power to certain vocal phrases. There's usually a decent dose of distortion on the vocals here to give them that kind of crunch that you want, and you definitely want on, you know, some more pop punk influenced music. And there also is quite a bit of auto-tune on this record. Quite a lot of it's really obvious. It's meant to be there and meant to create quite a digital sounding voice a lot of the time, which I find to be really distinct and really pleasant to listen to. But I know some people just can't abide any auto-tune whatsoever, so it's worth keeping that in mind if that's you. It turns out that this record was largely produced by Nick Anderson of The Rex, and they seem to do a lot of kind of similar stuff with vocals in their music, so, you know, it definitely feels like the vocals are the place where his influence is most felt on this album, and personally I really like his contribution here. And finally, I think it is just worth acknowledging that I think this record is probably a little more rewarding for me as a long-time Hoodie fan than it is for someone, you know, coming in from the outside and listening to this as the first Hoodie project they've ever heard, you know. To see him aim for something more ambitious with an entirely different sound and come off the back of it with a really great short selection of songs that just feels really raw and emotional, it's really gratifying for me as someone who's, you know, listened to him for many years now. However, if you're not that long-time fan and you don't really know Hoodie all that well, I can see how, you know, listening to this, it won't feel as groundbreaking to you as it does to me. But I still feel like this is a really great record. It's a great short collection of songs that feel full of personality and raw emotion, a bunch of great earworms here and infectious melodies, and I definitely think it's worth, you know, 25 minutes of your time. It's a really short record, so yeah, give this one a listen. And I think that's everything. I don't feel like doing an outro. I think they're a little pointless, so there'll be a link down in the description to check out the record if you'd like to, and have a good day.